Human civilization has survived because of brilliant leaders, advanced technology, and careful planning. That is the comforting version. The less comforting version is this. More than once, the world may have avoided catastrophe because one person hesitated. One radar screen was questioned. One submarine officer refused. One decision was delayed for a few minutes. And if any of those moments had gone differently, you might not be here to watch this. In October 1962, the world came closer to nuclear war than most people realize. The United States discovered Soviet nuclear missiles in Cuba. Missiles close enough to strike American cities within minutes. For 13 days, two superpowers stared at each other with nuclear weapons ready. Every message mattered. Every military movement mattered. Every misunderstanding could have become irreversible. Then, beneath the ocean, something happened that was kept secret for decades. A Soviet submarine, B-59, was being pressured by US naval forces using practice depth charges meant to force it to surface. But inside the submarine, the crew did not know whether war had already started. The vessel had lost radio contact. It was deep underwater. The temperature was rising. The crew believed they may be under attack, and the submarine carried a nuclear torpedo. To launch it, approval was needed from multiple officers. Two agreed, one did not. Vasily Arkhipov refused. The torpedo was not fired. Wait, humanity may have avoided nuclear escalation because one exhausted man, trapped underwater, decided not to assume the worst. That is how thin the line can be. But the Cuban Missile Crisis was not the end. 21 years later, in September 1983, a Soviet early warning system reported something terrifying. American nuclear missiles had been launched. First one, then more. The warning appeared on screens inside a Soviet command center. The Cold War was already dangerously tense. Only weeks earlier, the Soviet military had shot down Korean Airlines Flight 007 after it entered Soviet airspace. Trust between East and West was almost gone. The computer system said the United States was attacking. The officer on duty was Stanislav Petrov. He had minutes to decide whether the warning was real. A nuclear-first strike would normally involve huge numbers of missiles, but the system was showing only a small number. Petrov suspected a malfunction. He did not treat the alert as confirmed attack information. He waited, and he was right. The system had misread sunlight reflecting off high clouds. Think about that. For a few minutes, the possible beginning of nuclear war existed only as reflected sunlight and a computer error. A false image in the sky, a signal on a screen. And the difference between survival and catastrophe may have been one person refusing to trust a machine completely. But even that was not the last time. Later in 1983, NATO held a military exercise called Able Archer. It simulated the escalation from conventional warfare to possible nuclear release procedures. To NATO, it was an exercise. To the Soviet Union, already expecting a possible Western first strike, it may have looked frighteningly real. Soviet forces increased readiness. Nuclear weapons were prepared. The world did not end. But historians still debate exactly how close the situation came, and that uncertainty may be the most disturbing part. Sometimes we do not even know how near disaster was until decades later. Then came 1995. The Cold War had ended. The world was supposed to be safer. But on January 25th, Norwegian and American scientists launched a research rocket to study the Northern Lights. Russian radar detected it. For a few tense minutes, it was considered a possible incoming missile. The alert reached President Boris Yeltsin. Russia's nuclear command system was activated. The possibility of retaliation was considered. The rocket was not a weapon, it was a scientific experiment. But in a world built around instant warning systems and fast decisions, a research rocket could briefly resemble the beginning of nuclear war. That is the real pattern behind these stories. Not evil masterminds, not science fiction machines, human beings. Tired, afraid, working with incomplete information, trying to make decisions before they understand what is happening. Civilization is not protected by perfect systems, it is protected by people inside imperfect systems. People who notice something strange. People who ask one more question. People who do not confuse fear with certainty. And that may be the biggest moment of all. History is not only shaped by the events that happened, it is shaped by the disasters that almost happened and were stopped by hesitation, doubt, communication, or pure luck. The cities around you exist because countless worst-case scenarios did not become real. The ordinary future you imagine is not guaranteed. It is something fragile, something maintained every day by people making decisions they hope they will never have to make. If this made history feel less distant, subscribe. Every single day, we uncover another hidden truth about reality, science, space, and the human mind. Because civilization can feel permanent when you are born into it. But sometimes, it survives not because the world was safe, but because, for one terrifying moment, someone chose not to press the button.